So welcome to another Wargame review by theplayersaid.com. Today we're taking a look at GMT's latest game called Fields of Despair, France 1914 to 1918. And this is a World War I Western Front game. One person plays the Allies, the other person plays the Central Powers, and it is a hidden block hex movement style game. So, what did you think about the game itself? Just as an overall kind of game.
I think my overall feeling of this is a very good game. I think there were several times throughout the game that both of us would say, wow, there's a lot to this game. I don't know that the rules are really that heavy or deep, but there's a lot of strategy, hidden strategy. There is gamesmanship, there's bluffing, there is planning, there is calculating ahead so that you kind of know where your victory points stand. A lot. I really liked it. I felt like this game was absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
And once again, first play, we did get a couple minor rules wrong. First play, really liked it. I think this is going to be one of our favorites.
Yes. This is an excellent hidden block style game. It's fantastic components-wise and production value. So let's take a look at some of the details of the game. So this is the board, and this is at the end of 1914. We played just the first kind of introductory scenario. This is what it looks like. This is probably a decent representation of what your first scenarios are going to end up looking like. We did a couple bits and pieces wrong, so Belgium was a little bit easier for the Germans to take. But you'll see there's a lot of concentration down here where there was all the forts that were very hard to break.
Very hard.
So there's a lot of the board that doesn't get used, kind of around the peripheries, and you got the English coming in across the channel as well. Again, you can see board's fantastic. There's all the various different tracks. There's a couple of, just off camera here, there's a couple of attrition tables and trench defense tables as well, which will come in later in the game. Something that really stood out to me are the abstracted naval warfare and the Eastern Front warfare as well. There's a few different tracks going on. There's a U.S. entry. They'll come into the war if the submarine warfare gets to be too much.
So, for instance, if you pull black cubes, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and roll a 6, that is going to increase that track and hurry the U.S. because there's world outcry that the U-boats are wreaking havoc so that was something we didn't actually experience very much because I didn't roll 6s. I rolled 3s and 4s, but that was kind of a neat little concept, very thematic, I think.
But it gradually goes up, and there's also a naval blockade that the English put on. The Royal Navy are blockading the ports, and so that takes away from German resources. I would spend resources to put this up, so it would hurt the CP player more. And the CP player was also gaining more submarine power, so they could shoot down, or not shoot down, but shoot more merchant navy boats and hurt my economy as well. So that was really, really cool. And the way that is resolved, Grant's going to show you how.
So this is this is the sea bag. So it's just a cloth bag. This models the war at sea. So what you're going to do each turn is reach in, randomly draw 3 cubes. I'm trying to feel the colors, as Alexander would say. So I'm going to throw down the cubes that we pulled. And as you see, there's 1 blue cube, which is for the Allies. And I pulled 2 Central Powers cubes. So what that tells us is that the blockade's going to go up 1 on the blockade track. And the CP player is going to lose 1 resource. Plus, if you notice down here, it says +2 or +3. So the blockades are becoming more effective. The CP player would lose 4 resources. Conversely, the sub-warfare, we pulled 2 blacks. That means immediately the Allies are going to lose 2 economic points. And then over on the war at sea track, that would move up a couple of points because you drew some black cubes. You're going to then roll a die, consult the table, because we're here at the 7. You're going to consult the 6 to 7 column. So if you rolled a 5, the Allies are going to lose 5 reinforcements from England. So it's like you sank the ships before they came across the English
So you
Channel.
have English reinforcements are going to come out every turn, and those are placed in England, and you would just immediately reduce those. So if I had 16 and I took 3 losses, I'm down to a 13 before I even make it over into Calais.
And that played out quite well. I think you lost maybe 6 or 7 guys over the 3 or 4 turns.
And 2 or 3 doesn't sound like a lot at the moment, but again, it's 7 or 8 over a couple of turns. Then you start to be like, okay.
It begins to hurt.
Yeah.
The other bag, and Alexander, if you want to take him through that bag,
So
is
this
the Eastern
is-
Front bag.
Yeah, nice and red for the Bolshevik Revolution. It works in a very similar way. You reach in and you pull 3 cubes.
Feeling for color.
Right, so I pulled 2 red and a black. So the number of red cubes you roll on this Eastern Front loss table, and the more red cubes you have, the better the roll is for the Russians, basically. And the more, abstractly speaking, the Central Powers are going to have to commit over on that side of the war. This is also very, very interesting because if you pull all 3 red cubes, that constitutes a major victory. And one of those stays on this little track. I had 1 major victory in our game that we played. If you ever get 3, that's basically the Russians crushing the Eastern Front and sweeping into Berlin. And it's an automatic loss for the Central Powers. So they have to, if they don't want to auto-lose that way, if things get hairy, if they have 1 or 2 early on, they're going to have to commit a lot more resources to boosting the Eastern Front. Something that the bag building's really cool, and some of the situations it puts you in is also very, very interesting. So combat-wise, that's the crux of the game, Everything's hidden movement, hidden blocks. The fog of war is so dense because you have to spend reconnaissance, biplanes flying around trying to see what's going on. So I'm going to show a little example of combat and how all of that works. So we're just going to take a couple of these blocks here. These are very weak ones. We'll just stick them in a hex. You can't see what they are, and the active player gets to, let's say it's the Allies, they get to commit one of their reconnaissance biplanes, and they put it face down. I'm going to commit something here. And then the Central Powers, they're going to commit one as well. And you go back and forth, and you have stacks of these things until you both pass, and you don't want to commit anymore. And then you flip them over, and you have your planes have a dogfight, in which you roll you roll per your points either side. So the Allies rolled a 4, which is a miss, and the Germans rolled a 3, also a miss. So the attacking player, which was the Allies, they take their reconnaissance value of all their planes in the fight, and they subtract any losses or aborts that they had, and that is the number of blocks that they could look at. Because he took no losses, he can look at 1 enemy block. Well, there's only 1. Let's say it's a 4. Then you do a very similar thing with artillery. Artillery combat goes up first. So in this situation, attacking player is going to commit 3. And then the CP player commits 2, for example. And again, you have a big old stack of artillery, varying from like 0 to 4, and you can commit back and forth until you both consecutively pass. And those will flip over, and those go off simultaneously. And you roll d6 is equal to your artillery value. And you hit on a 5 and 6 in open terrain. So you inflict 1 loss. Boop. So the enemy block goes down to a 3. And the enemy is going to roll 2. And they also inflict 1 loss. So I'm going to go down to a 3. And then the attacking player gets to opt to not do infantry combat. If your losses are so catastrophic during artillery, you can say, I'm not going to do it.
Abort.
You can just sit in the hex, and it's a contested hex. That's something I really liked. You're not forced to just do attacks that would be worthless. You can sit there and just kind of stagnate, and I liked that. This is very similar to all block war games. You roll dice equal to the number that you have, so I would inflict 1 loss, and the enemy would inflict 1 loss as well. So you can see it's very attritional in style, and that's the end of the combat. That's it.
And those blocks can remain in the hex. That then becomes a contested hex, and therefore next round they can battle without having to move into it. Now you can move reinforcements up. You can also go through another round of artillery barrage, but those contested hexes really allow those battles to continue over several turns.
And then what you'll find as well is, here's some of the other hex blocks. They're huge. There's just so many combat factors that go into these. So it is a bucket of dice game. You end up chucking 37 d6s, and that's very, very fun. And that's why they also included, I think, the combat results table. Because sometimes it's just too many dice. So I'm going to grab that real quick. I mean, you can have up to 60 factors in a hex, and just rolling that many d6s is arduous. So you roll 3.
Fun, but arduous, yes.
You would roll 3, and then you just consult the line and column, boom, I do 27 hits. It just speeds that up for you. Or you can just use this for maybe a more balanced and less random play. So that's the combat in this game. Movement's very simple. Everyone gets 2 movement points. But that's the crux of it, really. That's what is so fantastic about this game. Very simple and very, very easy to play. So, final thoughts. I love hidden block games, and this is an excellent implementation of that. The fog of war is so thick that the reconnaissance extremely important, and I also love the artillery points, adding it in. That actually reminds me of Unconditional Surrender, where you have the option to kind of commit your little bonuses and things.
Absolutely.
I get that kind of upping the stakes feel, and you end up really quickly with huge artillery barrages, and that's very fun and extremely thematic as well.
Right. I really enjoy it. I think the crux of the game is the hidden blocks. That is what makes this game fantastic. And we played several hidden block games, lots from Columbia Games and others. We enjoy them. We like them quite a bit. It adds just another level of strategy. And I think with this game, the thing that I really truly like about the hidden blocks is that there are so many ways, strategic reorganization,
Yes.
using your logistics points to do, what was that called, emergency reinforcement?
Emergency, yeah, something like
where
that.
you could move 5 units from Koblenz, which really plays very little part in the game. You could move them all the way up, even to a frontline hex. So I think those elements really make this stand out and set it apart from many of the other hidden block games that we've played. Great production value, beautiful board. Everything is very well done. I really enjoy this game.
What I loved the most about this game was I felt like it was extremely balanced, and also it modeled World War I extremely well, especially the Western Front. I loved the abstractions. That was really fun, cool things to do in the bag.
It actually worked very well.
Loved that. But I loved how nothing crazy happened. You know, you'll get a big kind of mire that you get stuck in that's going to become the Hindenburg line. Mm-hmm. But, you know, this vying for just one hex becomes so important. So just throwing stuff in there. Yeah. I think it modeled World War I extremely well, and the theme was very thick to me. I really, really enjoyed that. That's something I've looked for in a game, is an element of realism. Without, it's not crazy rules heavy.
No, it's
I think
not.
That's extremely, that's just a great thing.
Talk about modeling World War I, and this was actually a question I asked in my interview with Kurt Lewis Keckley, the designer. How does this game model despair? You know, he used the title Fields of Despair. To me, that seems like he was trying to model something, and every game I've ever played about World War I, we've played, what's that card game?
Oh, the Grizzled.
The Grizzled. It was very despairing, right?
Yes.
It was almost impossible. The weather was bad. We were losing men left and right.
Everything stacked against you.
It felt like we couldn't get anywhere. I felt like this in many instances. Yes. Those fortresses are ridiculous. They make it so you only hit on a 6. They also make it such that you literally can't get rid of them except focusing on it over a 3, maybe a 2 or 3 turn. I think I took out 2 of your forts, both in Verdun, and it took me 3 or 4 of my turns.
Yes.
And over the time of a game, I can really see why this becomes a stagnated line of trenches and forts. And to me, that models World War I very well. I think
this is fantastic. This is one of the few games that I don't know if I have anything negative that I would say about it.
The dice rolling. We always have problems with dice rolling. You rolled awesome. That's why you're not concerned about it.
You have the option to not dice roll.
Right.
You have the option to have those charts and just do it through a chart. And
Yep.
that's also really cool. You can have bucket or dice game, or you can have a bit more of a strategy and thinking, like, it's a numbers game that way.
And it was interesting. We actually got that table out, right, early on, and we kind of said, which is better? We had rolled, I think I had rolled like 15 or 16 dice and got about 5 hits, maybe 6 hits.
Yeah.
And then you looked at the table, and it was kind of uncannily the same.
Yeah, it's extremely well done. So
great game.
Yeah, love this game. Can't wait to play this again. Has a solitaire variant, also a great bonus. You can play the whole campaign. This is going to be a fantastic game to take into the future as well.
One other comment I might make, the naval warfare, the blockade, and the submarine warfare, really a very neat element, but it was abstracted, right? So you're not necessarily fighting it out with submarines and destroyers and other things, but it's a very interesting mechanic that does damage to the Allies. I think most of the time, to be honest, I took away several of your economic points, which in the end led to fewer artillery barrages for you or fewer logistic points, and that felt really thematic. The blockade was the same, where you were taking 2 or 3 of my resources away. Really liked that element. We also liked the U.S. entry, although they never even got close on the track. They were at a 4 when to get in, they basically have to get to an 8, I think, or a 7. So really, those are well done. I think those abstractions I was a little concerned about, but after doing them, they're fantastic.
Yeah, all in all, this is an extremely good game, and I would highly, I can't recommend this highly enough, if anything.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten this from the P500, get out there and find it now, because I think this one's going to go quick. I think once the furor builds and the momentum, I think people are going to buy this thing out. It'll be in a second print probably by end of this year, would be my guess.
So this is Fields of Despair by GMT. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.